Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're talking about the mechanics of money and the path to wealth. We're going to completely dismantle the illusion of cash and rebuild your entire understanding of finance right from the ground up. Imagine for a second someone just hands you $1 million in cash. You feel rich, right? Well, let's dive right in.
So you've got that $1,000,000 in your hands. But what if, suddenly, a single loaf of bread costs $2,000? Crazy, right? But overnight, that massive, life-changing fortune would barely be enough to survive on for a few months. It's a rapid little thought experiment, but it totally shatters a super common illusion. Just holding a bunch of cash absolutely does not automatically mean you have a lot of wealth.
Okay, let's dive into this. Picture two people, person A and person B. Both of them have an identical net worth of $500,000. Now, person A has their 500 grand sitting completely untouched in a heavy metal safe. Person B, on the other hand, has their money tied up in a business and some rental properties, and they only keep about $5,000 in liquid cash. If you asked around, most people would say, hey, they're perfectly equal. $500,000 is $500,000. But actually, they're not equal at all. No way.
And here's exactly why. Person A's cash is just sitting safely in that dark box, doing absolutely nothing. It is completely stagnant. Meanwhile, person B's wealth, it's actively working. Their businesses are operating, their properties are appreciating in value, literally while they sleep. And that brings us to a really foundational rule. Money is just a tool. Wealth is what that tool can actually build. Confusing the two, believing that just piling up the tool itself is the ultimate goal, is exactly why so many people get financially stuck.
So to truly leverage this tool, we got to understand why it even works in the first place. I mean, think about a $100 bill. It's just paper and ink. It has virtually zero intrinsic value. So why on earth does the entire global economy revolve around it? Well, it boils down to one incredibly powerful concept: trust. It's a collective, societal contract. Money only functions because billions of us simply agree that it does. The exact moment that shared confidence fractures, the currency itself becomes totally worthless.
And that collective trust has taken on so many different forms over the centuries. I mean, we rapidly evolved from direct barter to trading shells and salt to lugging around heavy precious metals like gold and eventually to the everyday convenience of paper money. But today, most money isn't even a physical thing you can hold. It exists entirely as digital numbers stored on computer databases. Wealth isn't an object you hoard anymore. It is, fundamentally, a system of shared belief in those little digital digits.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because this brings us to a reality most people completely miss. Where do these digital numbers actually come from? We all kind of picture these massive government printing presses churning out endless pallets of cash, right? But physical currency is just a tiny fraction of the whole story. When a bank issues a mortgage for a house or a loan for a business, they aren't pulling existing cash out of a vault somewhere. That loan actually creates new digital money right then and there. Debt is literally the engine that injects new capital into our modern financial system.
Now, at first glance, injecting more money into the economy sounds like a great catalyst for growth, doesn't it? But here's the catch. When more capital is chasing the exact same supply of goods, prices inevitably rise. This is the invisible tax of inflation. Think of it like a tiny hole in a bucket. You might have had a grandfather who hid $1,000 under his mattress 50 years ago. Well, you don't really notice the leak day to day, but over those 50 years, that bucket has steadily emptied out its buying power. Leaving your capital entirely stagnant doesn't just put your wealth on pause, it actively drains it.
Now, what's really interesting about this next concept is the number 10. Most people just operate under the assumption that they go to work simply to exchange their labor for dollars. But actually, you're exchanging something infinitely more precious. Say you earn $25 an hour, and you buy a $250 pair of shoes. Those shoes didn't just cost you dollars. To put that into perspective, they actually cost you 10 whole hours of your life.
And those are 10 hours you will absolutely never get back. Capital is cyclical, right? It leaves your account, you earn more, it comes back. But time? Time is strictly linear. Once it's spent, it is gone forever. This profound realization is exactly why wealthy people completely obsess over efficiency rather than just making a paycheck. To them, the real currency isn't dollars at all. It's time. Money is simply the lever they pull to buy back their freedom.
Okay, imagine hiring the absolute perfect employee. This person never sleeps, they never complain, they never take a vacation, they just work for you every single second of every single day. Well, that magical employee is your money. When you shift your mindset and start viewing every single dollar as a tiny worker whose only job is to go out and produce another dollar for you, the entire game changes. Your growth stops relying on your own physical labor and starts compounding through ownership. Unfortunately, millions of people get trapped in what's essentially a giant hamster wheel. Earn, spend, repeat. You work harder, the hamster runs faster, it burns way more energy, but it never actually moves forward. It just spins. This is lifestyle inflation in a nutshell. Every time a raise comes in, bigger expenses immediately follow, and they just swallow up that new income before it even settles in the bank account. To break this cycle, the wealthy stick to one absolutely rigid habit. When their income increases, their investments increase first. The lifestyle upgrades, those come second.
And this brilliantly illustrates the crucial difference between consuming and owning. A liability, like driving a brand new luxury car right off the lot, instantly begins to drain your net worth. It actively takes money out of your pocket every month just to maintain it. An asset, however, like buying a rental property or creating a cool digital product that has the potential to continuously put money back into your pocket. One makes you look rich, the other actually makes you wealthy.
Because of that huge difference between assets and liabilities, the wealthy approach their financial decisions through a completely different lens. When they look at a pool of capital, they don't ask, hey, what can this money buy? That's the consumer mindset. Instead, they ask a fundamentally different question. What can this money build? That single shift in perspective dictates every move they make. It prioritizes constructing a permanent, solid foundation over just, getting that hit of immediate gratification.
To really visualize this, think of capital as water flowing through the plumbing of a house. Most people turn on the faucet and just let the water flow straight down the drain. The salary comes in, it hits the bills, the shopping, the weekend entertainment, and poof, it's gone. The wealthy, however, they act like financial plumbers. They build reservoirs. They intentionally divert a significant chunk of that flow away from the drain and pipe it straight into investments. They're trapping the water so we can serve them later on.
And over time, those reservoirs fill up, and they actually begin producing their own independent streams of water. Eventually, those small streams converge into roaring rivers. And this brings us to the ultimate definition of true financial freedom: cash flow. The goal isn't just to hoard stagnant water in a bucket, because remember, buckets get holes from inflation, right? The true objective is to build the self-sustaining system where the water simply never stops flowing, regardless of whether you decide to punch a clock that day.
So, the crucial point is this. Let's quickly sum up the undeniable rules of the game we've covered in this explainer. Money is merely a tool, not the wealth itself. Its power stems entirely from our collective trust. If left stagnant, it's going to slowly evaporate due to the invisible tax of inflation. When you spend it carelessly, you are actually spending the limited, non-renewable time of your life. And ultimately, it only multiplies when you prioritize ownership and treat every single dollar like a tireless employee.
The biggest financial mistake you can make isn't earning too little. It's failing to learn these underlying mechanics. So from this day forward, try to stop waking up and asking, how can I make more money? Instead, start asking, how can I make my money make more money? Internalizing that one single principle is absolutely the best investment you can ever make. It's one that will pay you dividends for the rest of your life. Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer, and keep building that wealth.